Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Should Have Gone Pro podcast. I hope everyone's doing well since we talked to you last, which was yesterday. We got um, our big episode today. We've kind of been putting off talking about a lot of these big signings and trades and everything in both baseball and football. Um, so we have a kind of a master list that we've built, and we're gonna run through it. Some of them talk about more than others, but just kind of cover all the bases that we missed out on um, with all the Mark Madness stuff going on and all the stuff that we've kind of missed out on. I think last time we talked about stuff was around the Russell Wilson trade time, so it's been a little bit. So we'll start with baseball and then move through the football, but we got a lot of little things to hit on today. So Brock, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, a lot of certainly we were scratching our heads, kind of trying to come up with some of the most important ones, but I think that's kind of what we we broke this down to: the memorable trades, signings, the big names, and like I said, we'll touch on some of the smaller guys. But I mean, every one of these players is certain to make an impact on their team, so we want to give them their fair shake. And I mean, every move is important that a team makes, and we want to try and touch on all the touch on all of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're gonna have some more that we talk about compared to other ones. Like I'm sure we'll have a little convo about Deshaun Watson and Von Miller and guys like that. But yeah, we'll start with the baseball. Kind of move through some of these. Um, on my list for baseball, at least I have it sorted by when it happened. So at the top is like right when the lockout ended, and then it goes up to most recent stuff, and then with the football, I have it sorted by teams. So that's kind of the structure that we're going with here. It's kind of all over the place a little bit, but it'll make sense. So um, first couple ones on my list here, I'll just rattle some of them off. We had Kershaw return to the Dodgers. Kind of saw this coming. He's been a Dodger. I think he'll be a Dodger the rest of his career. Um, he just fits out there. Everyone loves him, so that didn't really surprise me. Mets trading for Chris Bassett off of the A's. The A's did a huge fire sale. We'll get into some more of those later on too. Um, them and the Reds both had some fire sales, but the Mets adding him with Degrom too. They're uh, they're building a good rotation out there. Um, the Twins trading for Sonny Gray. The Twins have been a little confusing to me. I feel like I can't tell if they're trying to compete now or not. I mean, obviously they're signing these big people, but I don't know if they think these people are going to push them over the edge. I don't know, but um, yeah, part of that red sale. Another thing um, with with the Twins, they traded away Josh Donaldson and got Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela.
Pretty
Um,
good move. Good move. I thought honestly. I mean, say one about Gary Sanchez strikes out a lot, but I mean, Twins need maybe a fresh start. Getting out of New York will help.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure playing for the Yankees and coming up in their system. And they traded away Mitch Garver. The Twins did. So they needed a catcher. So can't be too upset about giving Gary Sanchez that kind of chance to revitalize his career. And Josh Donaldson is getting pretty old, so um, I can't be too upset about that for the Twins side of it. The Yankees obviously trying to win now, like they do every year. So uh, they'll do as they wish. Um, Nelson Cruz to the Nationals. He's getting old as crap, but he can still blast the baseball. So he's going to Washington. Another part of the A's fire sale was the Braves trading uh, for Matt Olson. Uh, Obviously, this connects with the Freddie Freeman stuff that we'll talk about in a little bit. But um, yeah, I think as a replacement for Freddie Freeman, I think this is a pretty good spot where they won't lose a ton of ground. I do think Freddie Freeman's better, but they won't lose a ton of ground compared to Freddie at first base. So I think it's a good move for the Braves trying to get themselves right in the thick of that race. And then obviously Acuna will be coming back this season. I mean, they won the title without Acuna, one of the best players in baseball. So I see that as a good move for Atlanta as well with that one. Uh, the Mariners traded for two of the Reds in that fire sale, Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez. That's gotta think about the name before I say it sometimes, but two big power bats. The Mariners, I believe they have the longest active drought of making the playoffs in all of baseball, so they're trying to end that. They were really close last year to kind of getting over that edge, so I think this might be able to get them over, especially with two extra playoff teams this year. I think the Mariners are putting themselves in a good position with that one. Um, Again, Brock, stop me anytime I'm going through this list. Uh, Rizzo back to the Yankees. We're a little unsure about him because they traded for him. It wasn't his necessarily decision, but he wants to go back to New York. Your Cubbies, they signed the Japanese star. Uh, I know how to say Suzuki. How do you say his first name? Is it Sia or how you say it?
I think it's Seiya. I don't know.
Seiya.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Obviously, the Rizzo back to the Yankees, that hurts. Trading Rizzo in the first place last year stung as a Cubs fan. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited that we signed that the guy out of Japan. I was looking at his stats over in Japan. I obviously know that's not the same talent as the MLB players, but I mean, the guy still put up some pretty impressive numbers, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the big leagues. I know the Cubs needed an outfielder. He was the top international guy available, so it's nice to see the Cubs spend a little bit of money for once and go get a guy like that.
Yeah, and we've seen some good talent come from Asia over the past few
I
years as well. So
I think it's the second biggest. I think it's 5 years, $80 million, which is the second biggest given to a Japanese prospect, behind Masahiro Tanaka's deal with the Yankees, which I did not realize how much money the Yankees actually ended up giving Tanaka for him to now not even be in the league anymore and to
yeah,
be kind of, I mean, not very good, honestly. I mean, they got like $140 million and really never had a strung together good seasons in a row. So hopefully this guy can do that for the Cubs and be a nice power bat and defensive glove in the outfield.
yeah, I feel like it's similar to in the NBA when you're drafting these international guys. They can be big hit or misses, and obviously you can get a huge hit like Otani, and some of these guys have trouble translating over to the MLB. But uh, yeah, I think it's a good move for that Cubs team trying to figure out their direction, kind of see just kind of take some risk. I think it's a good time for that team to take some risks and see if stuff can pan out because they're obviously not in the situation right now to go win a World Series at the moment. So I feel like it's a good situation to kind of take one of those risks and see if it hits. I mean, there's not much to lose as far as that goes. So, um, yeah, I feel like that's a good move. Um, Kyle Schwarber went to the Phillies. Uh, well, the Phillies are
Good
also on this
move.
list a little bit later too, but um, another power bat for that team.
Yeah,
Uh,
good, great move. I mean, I think the end of the universal DH in the National League helps.
mhm.
I mean, Kyle Schwarber at the end of the time with his Cubs, or at the time that the Cubs was playing outfield. So I certainly think that helps the Phillies there. He has a little bit of versatility that he can play in the field, although he'd probably get like what the Cubs used to do, sub him out in the late innings, seventh, eighth, ninth, because he's a defensive liability. But I think the universal DH in the National League, I think it was a great idea anyway. Watching pitchers bat was just embarrassing. Um, I mean, I think yeah, great move by the Phillies. I don't know. I think Kyle Schwarber definitely rebuilt some of his value last year with the Red Sox and Nationals. Was an All Star last year, which I didn't even know that he was an All Star last year. But apparently, the guy just went to Boston and was raking
He
out of his
was.
mind. So I mean, hitter friendly park, especially for a left handed hitter. That wall in right field's like the size of a small child's diaper. So I mean, good, but I mean, yeah, no, good for Schwarber. I think that's a really good pickup for the Phillies.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, I like your comment there about the universal DH too. We saw that with Cruz going to the Nationals, and there's these guys that these teams in the NL were struggling with. Should I put him out there or not? Because he's slow and he's not the best out there in the outfield, but they want his bat is important to us, so now they don't have to struggle with that. So that's something nice about that. We know there's a couple of teams making moves to kind of fill those holes. Um, moving on the list again, the Blue Jays traded for Matt Chapman, so another piece in that A's fire sale. Um, Blue Jays pairing him with Vlad Jr. in that infield. Um,
Scary with
the
Bichette and Biggio.
yeah,
Blue Jays are real, man. That division's tough. What are they in the AL East with the Red
yeah,
Sox, Rays, Yankees? Blue Jays are going to be a team to watch for sure. I mean, they almost made the playoffs last year, right with Seattle, and I think they are legit. I mean, if they can, their bullpen can pitch well. Still have a pretty decent starting staff. I mean, that lineup is horrifying, honestly. I mean, to think that they were linked with guys like Freddie Freeman, Trevor Story, and Carlos Correa. I mean, if they could have added Freddie Freeman to that lineup, that would have been even more insane. But yeah, I mean, that's a tremendous infield that they have built, and a really scary, really scary batting order. Honestly, I mean, I think Teoscar Hernandez on that team as well. So
yeah,
I mean, some guys that can club it. I mean, Vladdy Jr. was. I mean, in a year that Shohei Ohtani doesn't do what he does, probably wins MVP last year. So, I mean, young guy, pretty crazy. That I mean, Toronto's got a lot to be excited for this season for sure. I think they're definitely the team to watch coming into the season. If I had to put one in the AL, I think it's
hmm
definitely Toronto trying to make a run at some stuff here.
yeah. I do really like this Blue Jays team too. I like what they're building there, and Vlad Jr. has got this Hall of Fame potential. It's
Absolutely.
he is insanely good. So the Blue Jays are going to be around for a while, definitely. Chris Bryant signed a 7-year deal with the Rockies for 182 mil. Uh, not, I mean, besides it being a hitter's ballpark, don't know why he'd want to go to the Rockies. A lot of players that have left have talked about the dysfunctional organization. The Rockies, I don't feel like are in a situation to go and try and win right now. They're in that NL West that's just stacked to the brim with talent, and I feel like Chris Bryant is just going there to make money. He's not trying to win. A little bit of a confusing pick, besides obviously getting paid, but yeah, I can't really agree with Chris Bryant on that one too much. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I was I was pretty confused when I saw. I think the first thing I texted my buddy was, I mean, Chris Bryant, have fun not making the playoffs for the next 7 years of your deal. I mean, the Rockies
yeah,
are a horrible franchise. I mean, there's just no way to put it. I mean, they traded away Arenado, Trevor Story left in free agency. I mean, they really don't. Those are the only two players that I think I could even name on that roster anymore, except for the guy with the beard.
Charlie Blackman.
Yes, Charlie Black. Don't even know if he's still on the team. I honestly couldn't tell you, but yeah, I mean,
We got
I
Ryan
just,
McMahon. So
I feel like that's just, I mean, good for Brian. He got his money, but I feel like when you look at the teams that were looking at him, I mean, when you hear Bryant, I mean, he could have went back to the Giants. He made the postseason with them last year. It was a really good Giants team.
mm-hmm.
The Padres were looking to sign him. I don't really, I mean, he probably would go in the outfield, but again, I mean, that's a playoff World Series caliber team. I mean, I get it, and they might not have been offering him as much money, but I feel like it's tough. It was just a head scratching move for me. One of a couple that I think one of the obvious ones later on down the line was a little head scratching, but when I saw to the Rockies, I was a little confused by that as well.
Yeah, that one. Besides the money, doesn't make much sense to me at all. But hey, you do you. But Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers. That was probably uh, one of, if not the biggest move here. It just makes that Dodgers team absolutely stacked to the brim, ridiculous.
Sick of the
Um,
Dodgers.
it's pretty much at Golden State Warrior dynasty level. He signed 6 years, $162 million. Um, so he'll be there probably for the rest of his career, and it's absolutely insane. Um, this deal that he got, and being able to fit him into that Dodgers lineup. I mean, it looks like it's an all-star game lineup. It's really insane. Um, so yeah, the Dodgers will be right back in the thick of things every year for the near future once again. But um, yeah, that I mean, if you wanted to go try and chase it to get a back-to-back rings. That's not a bad place to
Definitely,
do it. So,
yeah.
um,
I'm just, yeah, that sucks. I guess it's better than the goddamn Yankees, but I still hate that he signed with the Dodgers. But again, I mean, I feel like I guess I don't necessarily blame him for leaving Atlanta because it kind of felt like they were done, especially after they traded for Olson. Um, I feel like that Freddie Freeman's one of those guys that if you're Atlanta, you have to pay. I mean, the guy's been there his entire career. You just won a World Series with him, and I mean, I get it. I feel like Freddie Freeman probably felt like it might have been a little slap in the face that they couldn't get a deal done. Um, but I mean, it just sucks that he went to the Dodgers, that lineup. But I think again, the universal DH plays in favor of the Dodgers because I mean they already have Muncy as their first baseman.
mhm.
But I mean, one, he's coming off of the elbow injury that he had in the postseason, so who knows when he'll be able to come back anyway. But I mean, Freddie Freeman's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman, so Muncy can play DH and spot start at first base, and I think he's even a third baseman too. So I mean, he's got some defensive versatility that you can move him around the infield, and again, put him in that DH role. Doesn't have to play any defense, can just hit. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he's more known for anyway. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the universal DH certainly aids aided some of the Dodgers' willingness to be able to sign Freddie Freeman because they had that flexibility around their infield that they could move Muncy to DH or spot start at first base.
Yeah, and if you're bringing Muncy back from the injury, you can ease him in by just having a DH at the start and then get out in the field. But yeah, it makes these lineups even more stacked having the universal DH out there. So, um, yeah, Dodgers have pretty much built a super team, but that's what the MLB salary cap situation will do to you. But the Padres trading for Luke Voigt again. I feel like that's also another DH driven move. Um, so the Padres trying to keep up in that division with the Giants and the Dodgers. Kenley Jansen left that division, went to the Braves. I feel like he that bullpen and that whole team in general for the Dodgers was just getting too full, and he can shine a little more with the Braves. I've always been a big Kenley Jansen fan, so I think he's gonna do great in Atlanta. Um, Nick Castellanos to the Phillies, 5 years, 100 mil. I feel like this is a pretty good move. Another great bat for Philly. They're really building some strong bats out there. And the outfield with him and Bryce Harper
Now,
is
if they could just get some defense and pitching.
yeah. I feel like they almost kind of forgot that there's several parts to baseball besides just swinging the bat. But yeah, I still feel like it's a good move, and yeah, there's not much to complain about if you're a Phillies fan from that regard. But I know this is the one you were talking about, and you said a head scratcher earlier. Carlos Correa to the Twins, 3 years, 105.3 mil, and he's got opt outs after every season. So
He's gonna need him. I have a feeling.
he's gonna need him because that Twins team I feel like is gonna be stuck in mediocrity, and having the opt outs is just kind of gonna give him a chance to get the bag from the Minnesota and just get out of there. I'm not entirely sure what the thought process was besides getting the bag. And I think he knew in his mind too that this Twins team is probably not going to be able to compete right away for a World Series. So he's having those opt outs to kind of get himself out of that situation. So if I'm a Twins fan, I'm not feeling great about that signing. I mean, it's cool to get a big name in free agency to your team, but especially to a smaller market compared to New York and LA, obviously. But yeah. Very interesting. I did not expect it. I know a lot of people didn't expect that move. And I don't see him lasting there very long at all before dipping off to somewhere we can go try and get another ring. So very, very interesting decision there. And I feel like he's almost got to the point where other teams were making moves and he almost got a little bit desperate and said, I just need to take one of these offers and go. But yeah, I was puzzled by that one to say the least. But
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think he has the second or third highest um, annual salary now in the MLB. I know for a fact he's behind Max Scherzer, who signed that ridiculous contract with the Mets. But I can't. Maybe Mike Trout too. But yeah, I thought it was really strange when I saw the Twins. I mean, if all it was going to take was 3 years, 105 mil, I mean, Cubs, where the hell are you at? You could give this guy an opt out after each season, but I mean, it is it's just weird. I didn't expect him to go to the Twins. It feels like such a weird move when the Twins were one of the worst teams in the league last year, and they really didn't do anything in free agency except for add Sonny Gray, who's not the greatest starting pitcher. I mean,
Well,
he's
that trade too, Donaldson trade. Yeah.
and then they got Gio Urshela, who's a good young player, but Gary Sanchez, who feels like either strikes out mostly anymore. I mean, the guy has fallen off since that rookie year. But I mean, I feel like Minnesota is still probably not going to make the playoffs. Um, but yeah, I mean, good for you, Carlos Correa. You got your bag, but I was certainly expecting the headline to read that he signed with the Yankees or the Red Sox or something like that. The Twins definitely caught me off guard. But I mean, yeah, good for you, Minnesota. You got a big name player. He's going to sell tickets. He's going to sell jerseys. But it would not surprise me if that was a one year deal for Correa, and he saw how he's not going to win with Minnesota. I mean, he came from the Astros where he won a World Series and made the postseason. Maybe every year in his career, 6-7 years in his career, been to a couple World Series. Yeah, won a World Series, and then you're going to the Twins, who have had the opposite of success. I think they've lost 18 straight postseason. It's either 18 straight postseason games or 18 straight postseason series in a row. So, I mean, good. You can change the fortunes of that franchise, but I just don't see it happening with one big move like that, and then filling in the pieces like they have with the rest of free agency. I mean, yeah, Byron Buxton's great. I can't really think of who else they have on that roster. I'm trying to think of my time playing MLB The Show, who they've got on that roster, but I mean, just no one really comes to mind other than Byron Buxton. But yeah, I think the Twins will be exciting. Like I said, I think Correa and Buxton will sell jerseys and get butts and seats, but I don't see Minnesota making any sort of playoff appearance or any sort of postseason push at all.
Yeah, it gives me like middle of the pack, like 500 vibes, like totally middle of the pack.
It almost feels like a couple off seasons ago when the Phillies spent all that money on JT Realmuto, Didi Gregorius, Bryce Harper, and they just finished 500. Yeah, they have made the playoffs. I mean, Carlos Correa is a great player. I mean, Bryce Harper won MVP last year in Philadelphia, didn't come close to making the postseason. So, I mean, I feel like it's just kind of that move. I feel like Correa could get the Twins to 500. He could play at an MVP level, but I just don't think he has enough around him to make that big of a difference and make the Twins a winning franchise again.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, I feel like his priorities were in the money and being able to get out of there when he wants to. So, interesting decision there. The last one I have on the MLB list before we get into football is Trevor Story to the Red Sox, 6 years, 140. I feel like Trevor Story to the Red Sox was kind of not really necessarily a backup plan for the Red Sox, but with all these great shortstops in this year's free agency, I feel like once Correa was gone, they ended up sticking with Trevor Story. Not a bad move for them. Obviously, trying to keep up in the AL East. With Xander Bogaerts out there with him in the infield. So
and Devers.
Devers is good too. So not a bad signing by any means. He's been a little wavy here and there. Not the most consistent bat, but when he's on, he's pretty good. So I don't feel like that's a bad move for the Red Sox at all. Just trying to keep up in that division. So, which was I remember last year when it got down towards the playoff time, fighting for that wild card spot with the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox. It got really tight there at the end. So any kind of push you can get, they'll push over the edge into the playoffs next year. It's going to help out. So, yeah. Was there any other MLB stuff that you wanted to mention before we dive into the football side of things?
I mean, geez, I feel like the Yankees were pretty quiet this offseason for what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no big moves by them. I was a little. I mean, you never. It feels like you never hear the Yankees losing out on bidding wars for big time superstars, but I mean, they did all off season. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily know that they were linked to Simeon or Corey Seager or Baez, but I mean, Corey Seager and Simeon went to Texas, who's again not a great franchise. Baez went to the Tigers. Sorry, Eric, haven't have been out of their glory days for a couple of years, but I
Hey,
mean,
this year I'm telling you, we're making
no,
some noise.
no, Detroit's going to be real this year for sure. They've done good. I mean, all those prospects are getting called up. I will say Detroit has a chance, I think, to finish second in that division because I don't think the Indians are very good. The Royals are still a couple years away, and then the Twins are. I think it's going to be them and the Twins fighting for second place behind the White Sox. But yeah, I mean, Yankees were really quiet this offseason. I don't really know what to expect from them. I feel like they're kind of like the Dallas Cowboys of the NFL or of the MLB. Every year it feels like they're saying people say they have a chance and this is our year, this is our year. And then they get to the postseason
Disappoint.
or then just disappoint. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, they added Joey Gallo last year at the trade deadline, and it's like, okay, that's great, but you added another guy who doesn't get on base, has a terrible batting average, and strikes out a lot to pair with guys who already don't get on base, strike out a lot, and have low batting averages. So, I mean, it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think
No
they're
balance, no balance in the
exactly. And I
batting
mean, I
order.
feel like Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton are great bats to have in that lineup. I still think Giancarlo Stanton's a little bit overrated, but that's besides the point. I think Garrett Cole, since that whole um, tampering with the baseball, I don't think I don't think he's been the same pitcher. I mean, if you look at his stats from the first part of the season, he was Cy Young, and then I mean there was a couple starts where he was getting shellacked there in a row, and I
Yeah,
mean even in the postseason against Boston, he got lit up, and it's like, I mean, again, so I mean I don't know, I just think the Yankees are really overrated. I think they spend a lot of their money and pretty stupidly. I just think they just try and outbid everybody because they're the Yankees, and they don't really think about fit. But I definitely think Boston and Toronto are going to make some noise in that division. The Rays are always solid, but I think it's Toronto. I mean, the moves that Toronto made, I think it's Toronto's division to lose. They have a really good starting staff. I forgot they have Jose Barrios, Hyunjin Ryu. They signed the Yusiki from Japan.
hmm
So I mean, yeah, it's just that the AL East is going to be a really good division to watch this year. Same with the NL West again with the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. But I think, yeah, I was just kind of surprised at how quiet the Yankees were in free agency.
yeah. I definitely agree with that, and I do really like that comparison you made with them and the Cowboys because they always had big talk, and then they never actually amount to anything. So, um, and they have way too many fans, but that just kind of tag along because it's the easiest thing to buy at the store, you know.
Exactly.
There's Yankee hats everywhere. There's cowboy stuff everywhere. So, um, that's topic for a different day. But anyway, speaking of the Cowboys, moving on to the NFL.
Hmm.
I don't know if I even have the Cowboys on my list as anything major they even did. No, I don't.
Nope. That's because they didn't do anything really of note except for trade Cooper and re-sign. Give Demarcus Lawrence more money that he doesn't deserve and re-sign Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I'm just move through it by teams here. I don't have every team on here. Like we mentioned, don't have the Cowboys because some of these teams just didn't make moves that we wanted to mention. But we got a pretty good list here, regardless. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, their massive signing was getting tight end OJ Howard. No, I'm kidding. He's a good tight end. He'll help out the Bills on offense, give another weapon to Josh Allen. But no, the big move is they were able to snag Von Miller away from either the Rams or the Broncos. They seemed like they were in a bidding war for Von Miller, and then the Bills came in and said, "We'll give him 6 years, 120," and everyone else backed off. So, uh,
I wish I could be making that much money when I was 33 years old.
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, he's gonna be getting a bag if late in his career, and who knows if he'll even be the same player at that point. that's a ways away. You're really hoping that he can
I
stay
wonder.
healthy and the same level that he is now if you're paying him that much money. But uh, I mean, it's a great move for that Bills defense. Um, they've they've got a great defense already built, and then you're adding on Von Miller. It's just the Bills realized they needed a little bit more of a push to kind of get over the edge in this very tough AFC that we've been seeing. And you'll see how much has happened in the AFC in the offseason, too, that we'll be talking about how much better the AFC's got compared to the NFC. And Von Miller is a fantastic signing for the Bills to kind of give them another push towards getting past teams like the Chiefs and even the Bengals now and guys like that. So I think it was a good decision by the Bills to do that. Although I don't necessarily agree with how many years they gave him, but
No, I agree. I was, like I said, I was pretty shocked when he got that much money, that many years at the age he is. And I mean, I thought he was going back to Denver or gonna run it back with LA. But
mm-hmm.
I mean, good for the Bills to throw him that money and get him away. I mean, he still showed that he can contribute on a team. And I mean, the Bills defense was very much improved from a couple years ago. So I mean, they add another big time player who can step up and seems to make big plays in the big moments. And I think that's what they need. Their defense kind of got torched last year in that AFC divisional game against the Chiefs that they shouldn't have lost. So I think bringing in Von Miller really helps them out. And then, I mean, you mentioned the OJ Howard move. We're kind of joking about it, but I feel like that's an interesting one for me because no one really knows what OJ Howard was because he got drafted by Tampa Bay and he never really got that many targets in the first place. I feel like he's been in trade talks for every year of his career that he wants out. Mm-hmm. And then when Tom Brady came, they brought Gronk along, so he was the third string tight end behind Gronk and Cameron Brate. I mean, still a pretty young player. Comes out of Alabama. I think he was a first or second round pick. So, I mean, if he can contribute and be a pass threat and a vertical threat and even a blocking tight end for the Bills, that's only going to help Josh Allen, who they already have Dawson Knox. So a good backup to Dawson Knox. And I mean, I think I could see OJ Howard making a pretty big impact this year, honestly. I mean, I didn't even realize that the Bills signed OJ Howard, but I mean, I feel like that's a good pickup for them. Kind of one of those under the radar moves that could prove to be a real difference maker this offseason.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do think that's a under the radar move that people might not realize how good it was until they start playing some games. But yeah, definitely some good moves there by the Bills to kind of keep their footing at the top of the AFC. Couple that rattled off here. The Dolphins signed Raheem Mostert and Teron Armstead. Raheem Mostert has been battling with a lot of injuries, but we know he's had some great runs with the Niners. So if they can keep him healthy in Miami, then that's a good signing. But if he can stay healthy, which has been the biggest thing for him. And Teron Armstead, they just signed him recently, and he's arguably the best O-lineman out there to get, and the Dolphins have had injury problems with Tua, and Tua needs someone to keep him afloat. So that's a good signing by Miami to kind of keep their quarterback's head above water for the time being. No pun intended with the Dolphins, but yeah, I think that two decent moves. The Raheem Mostert one is kind of taking a little bit of a risk, but if it pays off well. And Dolphins desperately needed O-lineman, so can't be upset about the Teron Armstead one if you're a Dolphins fan. The Jets, I don't remember if we mentioned this before. Jets signed C.J. Uzomah. It's more of a thing that I wanted to mention because him leaving the Bengals and that Bengals offense that they're building, they had something good going there, and he decided to go chase the bag and play for the Poverty Jets. So get your money, but you won't be anywhere near what the Bengals were last year. So enjoy that.
No, I agree. And then, yeah, just jump back to the Dolphins really quick. I think I think it makes sense that Mostert went to the Dolphins when you think that Mike McDaniel was with the 49ers with Mostert, follows his old coach. I feel like you see that so much in the NFL. Like, I mean, Trubisky was linked to the Bills this offseason because of Brian Daboll. Marcus Mariota just went to the Falcons because their head coach, Arthur Smith, was with the Titans when Mariota was there. So I feel like those connections that people make along the way really do make a big difference. And I mean, even see with the Bears, a couple of the Colts defensive players or former Matt Eberflus players are now coming over to the Bears. So I think that's something that I feel like people don't realize like how much of an impact that has, but it definitely does. And then, yeah, I mean, Dolphins getting Armstead, that's just, I mean, he's dealt with some injury problems. He is, I think, in his early 30s, like 31, 32. So, I mean, you hope he can stay healthy, but if he can, yeah, I mean, slam dunk move for the Dolphins. They needed offensive line help, and to get the best one available, especially at left tackle, which is one of the premium positions on the offensive line. I think, if not the most premium, obviously. Those guys are getting paid boatloads of money. But yeah, I mean, good for Miami. I think they getting Mostert, good move. They needed help at running back. Don't even get me started on Myles Gaskin. I had him on my fantasy team last year, and that guy was the most frustrating human being. But yeah, no, Dolphins hit it out of the – thought they had a pretty good offseason, addressed their needs, and check some boxes. And then, yeah, the Jets. I mean, Jets are the Jets. I still think they're going to be bad next year. Uzama signing with them. They got some tight end help for Zach Wilson. Who knows what he's going to be yet. I think they'll probably target receiver in the draft. They have 2 picks in the top 10, I believe. Mm-hmm. So certainly look to probably add help for their defense and offense in the draft, which is a stacked wide receiver class. So we'll see what the Jets do in the draft.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there for sure. The Ravens got Marcus Williams, besides Tyrann Mathieu, probably the biggest safety on the market from the Saints. They got him for the Ravens, who desperately needed some help in their secondary, mainly because they've been getting beat up so much. They lost a lot of guys last year due to injury in their secondary. Even their whole team was just injured last year. It was a mess. But Marcus Williams will definitely help out that Ravens defense, trying to bring them back to a defensive-minded team that they were a while ago. And, yeah, that's a good move for the Ravens because they needed some help, not just with the depth, but some leadership in that secondary as well. The Bengals got 3 offensive linemen, Lyle Collins, who was on the Cowboys, and Alex Kappa and Ted Karras. They realized that Joe Burrow was getting beat up. They made the Super Bowl, but part of the reason that they weren't able to finish out the job was because Burrow didn't have time, especially in the last couple of plays when Aaron Donald made his moves, and they probably sat there thinking, what if we had some better O-line? And they took all the money that they had and just threw it at these guys. And I think that was a great move because they have guys on these cheaper deals right now that they can afford to spend some money on the O-linemen. And I think that was a great move to kind of give Joe Burrow some sense of security and safety with that, especially after the horrible injury he had a year and a half or so ago. And it just kind of gives him that safety blanket. So it's going to be dangerous seeing that Bengals team giving Burrow even more time than he had this year to throw the ball. So I think the Bengals did exactly what they needed to do with that, for sure.
No, I agree. I think they had a really good offseason. Lyle Collins is probably a future Hall of Famer from the Cowboys at tackle, a little bit older, but still, I mean, they got really good value with him, Alex Kappa, and Ted Karras. So, yeah, good for the Bengals to rebuild that offensive line. I think it needed it, obviously, from what you saw in the Super Bowl. And I think it's just even more incredible when you think, yeah, like Joe Burrow was getting hit, got sacked 9 times against Tennessee, and they still won that game. So you certainly have a all-world talent under center throwing the ball. So you need to do whatever you can to protect him. They've already surrounded him with the weapons, Mixon, Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. So obviously the next step, got to protect him. And I thought the Bengals did that. And they had a really good offseason. If all 3 of those guys can start and turn into really good caliber players or transition to the Bengals as keep up their already good play. I mean, Bengals are going to be legit again this year.
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic move for them. The Browns had two trades that were pretty noteworthy. Amari Cooper from the Cowboys, they traded for him and gave back a fifth-round pick. So not much they had to give up there to get Amari Cooper. The Cowboys wanted to move on, and the Browns, who had traded away OBJ and let go of Travis Landry, needed to get some help out there at receiver. And Amari Cooper's is a good safety net at wide receiver for them. So for a fifth, I mean, you can't really be too upset about that. He does have a pretty bad contract, but the Browns were okay with taking that on. But the bigger news, in my opinion, the one that made a lot more headlines for the Browns making a trade was for Deshaun Watson. Traded finally, Deshaun Watson leaves the Texans. A lot of stuff's been going on with the legal battles, and there was a step uh, in the process that moved along that kind of gave Deshaun Watson this ability to look for trades now and give some of these teams a little more sense of he'll be able to play for us. And they finally made the trade. There was rumors that the Browns were going to stick with Baker Mayfield and not looking to trade anymore. And then Deshaun said he wanted to go to Cleveland, so they made it happen. 3 first-round picks, a third, and 2 fourths. So a lot of draft capital given up, a lot.
Don't forget, they also signed to that fat contract extension too. Like, what, 5 years, $203 million?
Yeah, they threw the whole bag in on him, and the Browns are going all in on Deshaun Watson. And if you take away all the legal issues, then I mean, I wouldn't have any much of a problem with that because before all of his issues, he was, in my opinion, a top 10 quarterback in the league. But there's just so much off the field stuff that you got to worry about for your now franchise quarterback. It can be a little worrisome. It can either pan out great, or this could be looked at as a massive failure by Cleveland, who's known for having these kind of failures, and it could go right down the drain. So I think the Browns wanted to move on from Baker, and I think that they realized one of the few options from moving on from Baker was taking this huge risk. So yeah, I'm kind of unsure how to feel about this. I feel like he's definitely overpaid for the situation that he's in right now. Again, if you take away the legal situation, I feel like this isn't the worst deal in the world, but with everything going on, I feel like it brings a pretty big distraction over the Browns, and for a team that doesn't really need that kind of distraction, especially now they have to try and work out a trade to get Baker out of Cleveland because he's not going to sit. So, yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure how to feel about it. How do you feel about this Deshaun Watson deal?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's hard to sit here and say, like, I mean, obviously I feel like the public opinion of him has obviously changed since the allegations that came out, and I feel like the NFL certainly needs to give him some sort of punishment when he comes back. I think it would be a huge misstep and blemish on the NFL if they let Deshaun Watson come right out after all of this and suit up week 1. I think they were saying that Kareem Hunt got 6 to 8 games for what he did to the girl in the hotel, and I think Deshaun Watson needs to get something along those lines, up to 10-game up to a 10-game suspension. I mean, I just don't think you should be allowed to do what he did, and for there to be 22 separate women who have all filed, which is, I mean, this is like getting into it, but I mean, for 22 women to have filed a lawsuit alleging that the guy did the exact same thing to all of them, I feel like there's reason to believe a reasonable person could make the assumption that maybe something did go on. Obviously, the court of law did not find that it did, so that's fine. I mean, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and Deshaun Watson was proven innocent. But I just think there is a couple red flags when you think of just the vast majority of how many lawsuits there was out there, and there's still 22 civil lawsuits pending against him. So I think the NFL has to punish him. Um, and yeah, if it was the Deshaun Watson of 3 years ago when none of this happened, I think the contract is fair because, like you said, he's a tremendous talent, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. But yeah, this is a huge swing by the Browns, and for a franchise that was just starting to taste some success with Baker Mayfield, I certainly didn't expect the Browns to make a move on Deshaun Watson, but I don't fault them for doing that. I feel like they kind of thought they'd hit their shelf with Baker, kind of like what the Rams did with Jared Goff, moved off of him. But for the Browns' sake, they better hope this works because they're giving him a huge chunk of their cap space each year, and they gave up 6 draft picks to get him. So it has to work out, or it's a colossal failure for Cleveland.
Yeah, I I agree with that, and it's man, it's hard to see all this happening. I know people uh, down in Clemson, and they always talked about how Deshaun was just the nicest guy. He was doing all this charity work. Like they could never imagine this guy doing this kind of thing, um, and then for all this stuff to come out, it's just crazy. Because you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes until stuff comes out. So um, I guess I say like never judge a book by its cover, and that kind of applies to that situation as well. So, yeah, big swing for the Browns there if they're able to get past all these off the field issues. But yeah, it's hard to put much doubt into it when so many women have come out and said these things. So, yeah, very peculiar situation for Cleveland to take that swing. But moving on, the Steelers signed Miles Jack, linebacker, to probably be the other side of the edge rush with T.J. Watt, um, and those two guys coming together is going to cause a lot of problems for the O line. I think that's a good move for them to kind of balance out their pass rush. And then they signed Mitch Trubisky for quarterback, and I was a little surprised they did this. I still feel like there's something missing here. I feel like they're either going to try and draft somebody, and Trubisky is kind of like their security blanket situation, kind of like what the Bears did with Andy Dalton and Fields. I feel like this is a similar situation where they might draft somebody with that pick, and I don't think Trubisky's going to be the guy for Pittsburgh unless he just goes in there and just goes crazy for some reason that we have no idea why he would. Um, I feel like the Steelers just wanted to have something where they could have a quarterback that can at least manage the game enough to get some wins. So I was a little surprised by that, but I still feel like there's more moves Steelers are going to make at quarterback before this is all said and done. But yeah, a little puzzle, especially if that is their final spot. That's very puzzling. But they didn't give a massive deal or anything, so it's one of the situations where they can kind of play it by ear for sure. But but yeah, that was a little interesting, to say the least. There, um, the Colts traded for Matt Ryan. They finally got their quarterback after we talked about them trading away Wentz um, before we took the March Madness hiatus for a little bit, and yeah, they traded a third round pick to get Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan obviously needed to get out of Atlanta. Atlanta needed to move along on the rebuild, and I think this was a good move to get past Matt Ryan and try to close the book on that era of the Falcons and kind of focus on the future there. So for Atlanta, I feel like this was a good move. For the Colts, I feel like this is a good move as well. They have this team that wants to try and win now. The quarterback play was a little shaky last year with Carson Wentz. That gave him a chance. It didn't really pan out. And now Matt Ryan, who I feel like is more established, he's a former MVP, so he can definitely go in there and get the job done. Uh, you worry a little bit about him getting older, and how much left he has in the tank, but I still feel like Matt Ryan is an underappreciated quarterback in this league because he's been playing on those bad Atlanta teams, and I think he's really going to help this Colts team out, and I think they're going to make the playoffs next year if things go according to plan. So I like this move for both teams.